When I say reactor, what is it that comes into your mind? Is it something like this? Perhaps maybe something like this? Or even something like this? Well, if so, then congrats, you are correct. A reactor is, by definition, let's Google it, a piece of equipment in which a chemical reaction, and especially an industrial chemical reaction, is being carried out. More specifically, those previous examples are a type of nuclear reactor, which is a device for the controlled release of nuclear energy, and they're being used to transform heat using a turbine for electricity. Okay, got it then. So, a reactor, maybe a nuclear reactor, is just a thingy, with a hot rod in it that generates, heat, which then we can use to make electricity. So, that's nuclear reactor. What would happen if by chance I replace the word nuclear with bio? A bioreactor. Well, perhaps then, if a nuclear reactor uses nuclear power to generate electricity from heat, then maybe you're thinking one of these, which is a technically called a bioreactor. It's from a game called Subnautica. It's a fun game. Well, it is not entirely correct. I know it did say bioreactor, and you can see it's producing electricity. Not now, because I'm in creative, but it should. Well, this is a bit too sci-fi, a bit too futuristic, because we can generate electricity and fuel using a reactor or a bioreactor, but not in this way. So, let's take a look at what a bioreactor actually is. A bioreactor, again going back to Google, is basically a vessel that have been designed and produced to provide an effective environment for enzyme or whole cells to transform biochemicals into product. So then a bioreactor is basically just a thing which you can put another thing in to get a different thing which you need or just more useful in general. As such, it can take many forms and shape depending on what you need it for, what you want out of it, and what you're putting in, what the substrate is. The substrate, in case you're wondering, is the thing that is being used up by the different thing that transform it. Basically like food, or waste, or whatever it is. Vegetables even. And the thing that converts it, we call it a biomass. It can come in many different forms. Fungi, bacteria, any microorganisms, or even just straight up enzymes. Then, if so, when I say enzymes and biomass, these are scientific terms. You might be thinking of something more like this. Oh, quite grandiose, isn't it? Well, yeah, but also, not only that, you're forgetting about the simpler stuff. Things like this. Yes! The humble solid state bioreactor, or a bed bioreactor. Well, they sound fancy, but looking at it, it's just a composter. Well, again, composter is just an example of a bioreactor. So, how do they work? Well, you see this box here? You put potatoes in it, and eventually, when they get full, you get a bone meal. The bone meal you can use to grow more potatoes. Yay! What fun! Uh, it's not actually like that. This is a game. It's a bit quick and a bit unrealistic, but in general, that's actually how a composter works. So, there you go. You can put food or waste, like rotten potatoes, biological waste or compostable waste is what we usually call them. And then you get, eventually, takes quite a while, voila, compost. Basically, fertilizers. So basically, a composter is just a very simple form of bioreactor that anyone can make at home. The substrate comes from anything you don't want, need, or even spoiled, and the fermenter or the biomass is already there. It's in the ground, it's in the air, it's everywhere. It's just aerobic bacteria, such as nitrogen fixing bacteria, or even types of fungi, which again is already there. Nature is quite amazing, isn't it? The result? Fertilizer, which can help you grow like crops or even vegetables at home. So while a composter is, one of the easier and more memorable examples of bioreactor at home, it's not the only one. And compost is not the only thing you can make. Things like a shake flask or petri dish can technically even be counted as a bioreactor. A bioreactor is a word that's far more sophisticated than what it actually is, but they can be very simple, and they can even be bigger. A different kind of example would be something like this, where you use potatoes or something with sugar, and the microorganism can turn it into ethanol or even biofuel. Yes, you can make fuel at home. Not exactly. These things still need to be refined and processed to become actually usable, but you can make ethanol. You know what that means? Exactly. Brewing. Brewing beer or alcohol or moonshine is also technically a bioreactor. Well, maybe not moonshine, but you know what I mean. And yes, they're quite amazing, and you can do it at home. Try the composter before you try the alcohol, though, and have fun.